In this lecture, we will learn how to plot graphs using Matplotlib. Let's say we have some data about the popularity of programming languages among students. For each language, we have a number of students that are interested in that language. Python gives us the Matplotlib module to easily automate the plotting of graphs with a dataset like this. The first thing we need to do is open up the command prompt or terminal on our computer and change directories into the folder that stores our Python file. So let's type cd and then the path to that directory. Then we will install Matplotlib using a pip command by typing pip install matplotlib. When we hit enter, Matplotlib will begin installing on our computer. We currently have a table that shows us 5 programming languages and the number of students interested in each language. Let's learn how to take this raw data and use Python code to turn it into a bar graph. Up at the top of the code, we will import numpy as np and matplotlib.pyplot as plt. Then we will create a variable named languages and set it equal to a list with the string values Python, C#, Java, C++, and JavaScript. Next, we will create a variable named students and set it equal to a list with the integer values 35, 12, 23, 29, and 17. Next, we will call plt.bar and pass in languages as the first argument and students as the second argument. After that, we will call plt.title and pass in the string popularity of programming languages among students. This will appear at the top as the title for our bar graph. Along the x-axis, we are going to be showing the programming languages, so we will call plt.xlabel and pass in the string programming language. Then we will call plt.ylabel and pass in the string students, since the number of students will be displayed along the y-axis. Next, we need to display the labels for each of the bars and amounts. So we will type for I in range line students. Indented inside of this for loop, we will call plt.annotate and pass in students at index I cast to a string as the first argument. xy equals a tuple with languages at index I, comma students at index I. ha equals center and va equals bottom. Finally, we will call plt.show. When we run the code, notice that a bar graph is displayed. Along the top is the title of our bar graph, Popularity of Programming Languages Among Students. The x-axis shows the programming languages, and the y-axis shows the number of students. Then in the middle is a bar for each language, also labeled with the number of students interested in that language. Awesome job! In 11 lines of Python code, you were able to take a chart of raw data and turn it into a bar graph in Python. Let's learn how to take that same chart of data that we started with and turn it into a pie chart. We can keep our imports at the top of the code, but delete the rest of the code that we just wrote. Then we will create a variable named figure and set it equal to plt.figure. After that, we will create a variable named ax and set it equal to figure.addAxes with a list with the values 0, 0, 1, and 1 passed in. Then we will call ax.axis and pass in the string equal. After that, we will create a variable named languages and set it equal to a list with the strings Python, C#, Java, C++, and JavaScript. Next, we will create a variable named students and set it equal to a list with the values 35, 12, 23, 29, and 17. Then we will call ax.py and pass in students as the first argument, labels equals languages as the second argument, and autopct equals %1.2% as the third argument. Finally, we will call plt.show. When we run the code, you will notice that a pie chart was created out of the data. Each language is shown in a different color slice and has a percentage that corresponds to it. Matplotlib is a very powerful library that allows us to plot other types of charts too. Let's learn how we can use it to plot a sine wave. We will delete all of the code we just wrote, except for the imports at the top of the program. We will need those for our next example. Let's also import the math module by typing import math, because we will need to access its pi constant in the program we are about to write. We will create a variable named x-axis and set it equal to np.arrange, with 0 passed in as the first argument, math.pi times 2 passed in as the second argument, and 0.05 passed in as the third argument. Then we will create a variable named y-axis and set it equal to np.sine and pass in x-axis. After that, we will call plt.plot and pass in x-axis as the first argument and y-axis as the second argument. Next, we will type plt.xlabel and pass in the string angle. This means that angle will show up as the label for the x-axis. Then we will type plt.ylabel and pass in the string sign. This means that sign will show up as the label for the y-axis. Next we will type plt.title and pass in the string sine wave so that at the top, the title that is displayed is sine wave. Finally, we will call plt.show in order to show our figure. When we run the code, you will notice that the sine wave figure that we created displays. Great work, you just used matplotlib to display 3 different types of charts using Python code. If you have to make a graph or chart to show at a meeting for work, you could make it by hand, but that would probably take a while. Perhaps you could leverage your Python skills and use matplotlib to automate the creation of graphs and charts, and get your presentation together quicker, giving you more time to prepare for it. I hope you found the skills in this lecture useful because they are some of the most widely used in the industry when it comes to writing Python code. In the next lecture, we will look at a recap of what we learned in this section of the course.